Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Sink, and my job for the next couple of hours is to provide you with some relaxing entertainment. Uh, Tonight, I'll be doing one of the things that I love to do, which is painting. And in tonight's painting, I'm going to be working on a subject that is very dear to me. This is my good friend, Bob Goodhart, who was the owner of Bob's Guitars until recently, when he sold the store a couple of years ago. And Bob is going to be the latest member of the Rogues Gallery, which is a group of portraits that I've done for people whom I have a connection with and who have provided me with some inspiration over the years. And this is Bob. So let's get this party started. Now, before we go, I want to let you know that I'm not an accomplished artist. I do a lot of dog portraits. I do a lot of people portraits. I do landscapes and still lifes. But I also dabble in music recording and performance. So some of my videos will be about music and musicians, and some will be actual recording sessions in my home studio that I do with friends. So I hope you enjoy yourself for the next couple of hours. I may duck out of screen once in a while to look at comments because I don't have a monitor set up to look at those. So let's get this painting going. All right, what I've already done is mapped out the background a little bit with some dark colors. This is a live on stage photograph that I took about a year ago of Bob. And I'll kind of talk about my method and share some thoughts with you as I go. So the first thing I normally do when I start a portrait is I will map in some of the darks and use a relatively small brush for this. I'm working with acrylics, so you'll see me spritzing my palette occasionally with some water. And here we go. So Bob, I first met Bob when I moved back home to Iowa about 15 years ago. And I would stop into his store from time to time, hang out with Bob. He has sold me a few guitars over the years and has been a very dear friend. I'm going to take 1 second to show you the reference photo. This is what I'm working from. I hope you can see that. That's Bob there in the middle. And that's the photo that I'll be working from tonight. So again, I'm going to start with the darkest darks and see if we can't get a good likeness of Bob Goodhart. So Bob owned a music store that I would frequent often here in town, and has for, I don't know, a number of years. Quite a long time. And they have beginners guitars and lessons like most music stores do. But Bob also has a superb knack for buying and collecting vintage guitars. He's kind of the Gruen guitars of Cedar Falls. Cedar Falls is a college town. Cedar Falls is a college town. We have a number of about 40,000 students, I think, that make up a lot of the town's population. And we have a surprisingly large number of good music venues, which as a musician is terribly important to me. Just mapping out some of the darks in the painting. I work in layers, thin layers, and you'll see me scrubbing paint on quite a bit. That's part of my little technique that's evolved over the years. A lot going on in the world right now. A lot. Some people are real nervous about what's happening. Some are excited. Let's talk about the weather for a minute. We're having an incredibly mild January here in Iowa. Incredibly mild. The last couple of days. But we were below zero for a few days as well here, not very long ago. So Bob's hair is kind of a sandy brown, so I'm going to pop some of that in right now. My palette, in future videos, I'll probably have a separate camera on the palette. But my palette is made up of just a few colors. I've got a cadmium red, yellow ochre. There is black and white. And I also have a little bit of purple on the palette tonight and a tiny bit of raw umber. We'll start roughing in some of the hair. I've got a guitar strap here that I can kind of pop in real fast. How many pet owners do I have in the audience tonight? I have just recently acquired a new family pet, and that fellow's name, or gal's name rather, is Pix. My daughter, who's an astronomy enthusiast, named Pix after Pixis. That means something to astronomy people. I'm not quite sure what it means. So in my studio here at home, I do a lot of recording. I invite guests over to record. It's not something I charge for. It's just a passion of mine. So I'm learning all the ins and outs of recording. I'm 67 years old. So anytime I can pick up a new trick in my little bag of tricks, I enjoy learning new things. I started out in art 40 years ago. No, not 40 years ago. I was 40 when I started in art. So over 25 years ago, I had just sold a restaurant in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and had gotten pretty darn bored. So my wife, Corey, went to the art store and bought me some colored pencils. And I began the journey in my art endeavors with colored pencil, which I like doing a lot. I'm going to mix up a little bit of almost a purple color here with some blue that I have on the palette and a touch of actual purple. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total colors, including black and white. Almost a Zorn palette, if you've ever heard of that. The notion of a limited palette is certainly not new and not an invention of mine. It goes back a very long time and was used by some great painters, tremendous painters. Working these shadows in, all layers. This is more of an underpainting than anything else at this point. I'm going to step away for 1 second and check my YouTube feed and make sure that I'm live, and I'll step right back into frame. Yep, everything's up and running. The hair is kind of blocked in. Got some really nice light stage lighting coming in on the hair, and I'm just going to block that in. Bob has sold me way too many guitars in the years that I've been here in Cedar Falls, Iowa. I moved back here about 15 years ago, and the guitar store is one of the first places I went. Big fan of Taylor guitars. I've never owned a Martin guitar, but I'd love to. Someday I will have a Martin guitar. Most of this painting I'm going to do with a very big brush. I won't switch to a smaller brush for quite a while into the piece. So capture some light here so that when I come in with color, it'll make more sense to me and to you. The microphone, that's a nice color to pick up some highlights on the metal of the microphone. I don't want to put very much detail into the mic and stand at all, because I don't want to take away from the subject in any way. Let's get a few basics in the drawing. My goal in the beginning of a painting is to capture a likeness and find some interesting spots in the painting that I can exploit and make cool. All right, we got a little hair mapped in there. His guitar is solid black, and we're going to express that with black and blue. Like most artists, I rarely use colors out of the tube. Almost always the colors are mixed on the palette. Hope everybody had a great Christmas holiday and New Year's, or whatever you celebrate over the holiday season. Now, the pick guard on his guitar is a pretty bright white. We'll lay that in. Again, we're just working on an underpainting. His neck, I'm going to say it's maple, a maple neck. He's playing a Fender Strat, probably. And the microphone, there's a mistake. The microphone actually goes in front of the guitar in this painting. So we'll have to pop that in. I have been prone to doing artistic things my whole life. Prone to doing art my whole life. I was never in sports, never cared too much for football and that sort of thing as a young person. And instead, I gravitated heavily towards music and theater. I like those things a lot. Already starting to see some things I think are going to be cool about this painting. I do have a problem, though, and that is that I need to bring some darks over here to get the forehead just exactly right. I can make adjustments with that as we go. Just scrubbing these things in. I am not trying to present myself as a spectacular artist in any way, shape, or form, but I do like doing this, and I know that I find myself pretty bored sometimes, And these kinds of videos are entertaining to me, as I hope they are to you. So this isn't so much a how-to thing as how I'm going to do it. So 15 years ago, my wife bought me some art supplies. And from that sprang an intense desire to learn to paint and to be able to do these. I give a lot away as gifts, and also, not only do I use them in gift giving, but I also sell these. So I've mentioned in the banner there that I do these for $99. So a 16 by 20 portrait's just $99, which I have no way of trying to sell you because I don't know how to do any commerce stuff yet. I don't know how to do any commerce on Facebook or YouTube. His face is vividly illuminated on this side by the stage lighting. So we'll pop some of that light in. Stage lighting is a very odd light to depict in paintings. It can be extremely difficult because it's multiple light sources, sometimes with odd colors associated with those light sources. So you have to make a lot of color choices and so forth in a blind fashion, because lots of times a performer on stage will appear Smurfy blue or orange because of the light that they're depicted in. So we're going to avoid that and use a more natural light. And still, I'm just trying to block in color. All of these will be visited again. Every spot of the painting will be visited again with other colors. Now we need to get a grayer tone in the skin, in what's kind of a shadowy part of the face. I'm playing some unlicensed, uncopywritten background music that I hope doesn't get me in trouble on the YouTube app. Pop some of that ear in. Already starting to see a likeness, a face that I recognize. So my wife bought me the colored pencils to start my art career with, and I switched not very long into that. I switched into pastels. There was a brilliant pastel artist in Hot Springs, Arkansas, where I was at the time. And that artist's name was Carol Ketchen. She's written some textbooks on the subject of pastel art, and she just happened to be a friend of mine. So I was rubbing elbows with some pretty exceptionally good painters early on in my journey as an artist, which was cool. But I was naive to believe that just being exposed to that would give me very much of an advantage. Bob's got a funny nose. I don't know if you can see that starting to show up in the picture. So from pastels, I worked my way into oil paint and discovered very quickly that oil paint is a tough medium for a few reasons. Now, it's really fun to do, and it's really hard to do well, but I fiddled with it a bunch. I'm just finding color as I mix on the palette, and wherever I think that color might land nicely, I'm putting some on. Ah, my dog's barking in the background. That's Pix the dog. If we do more of these videos, you'll see plenty of, or hear plenty of Pix the dog at least in my videos. We can come in with more natural skin tones here soon. Again, blocking things out. Get some skin tone on his arm. Some flesh tones here. Like that color a lot. Gonna pop some of that in right there. Pretty intense light, which is what I see on those spots. And then the shadow under his muscle in his arm. We'll go right here. Speaking of muscles and arms, you get to know a subject way abnormally well when you paint them. You learn every nook and cranny in their face and in their features, and it's kind of funny. We got to pop in that microphone stand in front of. That was a oversight in my sketching process. I didn't realize that was covering that up, and I had planned to paint his hand right in this area, but that's not going to work out on account of, it's pretty fancy on account of, that's not going to work out because this is the pick guard going in on his guitar. Got to stay super loose on this guitar. I don't want to get caught up in a lot of details too soon, because it's not a painting of a guitar, it's a painting of a guy. And the subject, I don't want to lose context what I'm really doing here. Little piece of hardware there that I'll work on later. Back to that. And we need to darken this small area where it connects to the neck. Yeah, that's nice. I will have friends that are guitar aficionados who will question some of my interpretation of the instrument. They'll probably tell me, no, that's not a telly, that's a blah, blah, blah. Oh, well, I'll live through that. And the microphone is an SM58, the industry champion workhorse of all microphones. I've got about 6 of these in my studio. Got about 6 of those in my studio. I have to make a decision soon about whether or not I'm going to include the cord on the microphone. I think I will, but I have to figure out how to interpret that without cluttering up the drawing or the portrait. Where that would live, I'm going to get some more black out on my palette. I've underestimated the amount of black that I need to do this painting. So I graduated then from colored pencils to pastels. Then I did a year or two. Bouncing around all those mediums. And I landed on acrylic paints in the end because I could do a lot of these quickly, and they would be in the hands of the people who commissioned them, or they'd be on a gallery wall. Living in Hot Springs, Arkansas gave me access to a whole lot of galleries, and that was really nice. Hot Springs was in the 1999, 2000, 2001. It was a hotbed of art and all sorts of artistic activity. Still is. It's a wonderful place. I owned a restaurant there for a while. His shirt. So he's wearing a shirt that is striped in blue. And I will add a little bit of that blue as a detail, but I'm going to start just laying it in as a light blue, almost a white, and I'll find shadows in a bit as I move on. Right now I'm just wanting to map out the shape of the shirt and to get some paint on my canvas. I'm working on high quality primed canvas panels, which gives me a lot of control when I paint. Going to be a dark shadow there. And let's just finish drawing the sketch of the shirt. I like that for a highlight. Not finished. That's just the guitar is certainly a work in progress. I have to decide how low to go with that. Fabric is a funny thing to paint. It has very much a life of its own. There is a painter, and if I get any of this stuff wrong, again, I'm not trying to sell myself as a teacher or someone who's got some special knowledge about this kind of thing, but I know what I like. And there's a painter, last name is Sargent, who was extremely good at painting fabric just by implying its movement. He could and would paint a swatch of fabric, a person's hand, a man's hand, and then convince you with this paint that there was a piece of jewelry, a wedding ring, let's say, simply by adding one stroke of white paint or very bright paint. And the stroke, just the one stroke, would give you a strong sense of that piece of jewelry. And then he would follow that up with the tiniest details, implied, not real. tiniest details. Just don't want to lose track of where the shirt line and the buttons and that sort of thing live, so that later on in the painting I am not lost and making mistakes with my composition. I'm just laying on paint. My mission is to cover the canvas as fast as I can and begin the process of convincing you that this is a shirt. We'll add in some nice shadows as we go. And I may certainly revisit this multiple times as I paint with my layers. Get a little bit of blue. I certainly am seeing blue in these shadows. So I'm mixing some white, some turquoise blue, and a little bit of raw umber to get the color of my shadows. That's a nice shadow color. That I'm happy with. A wrinkle there. Pop a few of the more pronounced shadowy spots. That's a nice dark shadow right there. I need to emphasize that while I'm thinking of it. This is one of the darker shadows on the fabric itself. So we'll pop that in under there. We've got a deep shadow here and here. So I'm a big believer in just painting what I see. I'm not painting a shirt. I'm painting, at this point, I'm painting what feels like a shirt, if that makes any sense to you. I'm convincing myself at the same time that I'm trying to convince you that this is indeed a shirt with lots of texture and motion. Again, I'm just painting what I see. Quite a few rolls in the fabric. Us middle-aged guys, I guess I'm not middle-aged. I suppose I've reached being elderly. I'm almost 70, so sure doesn't feel like it. And that's not what I see when I look in the mirror. I don't see a 70-year-old man, at least what I've perceived so much of my life is what a 70-year-old man might look like. Rather, I see someone who's just getting started. I don't know if that's naive or stupid or what that is, but that's what I see. Lots of these kind of dirty colors being blocked in here. I never wash my brush. I'll dip it in some water and wipe it off. In this stage of the painting process, I don't see much reason to obsess over the maintenance of my brushes. Now, I know more about how this looks. I need to move that up a little bit. As I look at my reference photo, I can see pretty clearly that that's the line of the shirt. And it's nicely illuminated. And this is a bit of an upturn in the collar. Quite bright here. A little bit of brightness going on there. Now, I prime the canvases with a bit of an orange color paint. There are lots of different ways to do that, but that's what seems to work the best for me. And some of that orange glow will live on in the finished product. Not too much, but there'll be a luminescence that works its way out into the finished painting. Move these lines around a little bit. If you're making comments, I don't have a way to monitor those yet. I'm using StreamYard and an ATEM to process the videos, and I don't know how to do it well. This is my first attempt at a live feed on YouTube. Hopefully the first of many, because I can already tell that this is something that I enjoy. We need, not trying to get caught up in any particular area of the painting, just moving around it, looking for opportunities, I guess I'll call them, to define the shapes and the wrinkles in the shirt, the things that make it a shirt. So far, so good. I don't have any serious concerns about where the painting's headed. Actually, pretty happy so far. This is a shadowy area here. This is a shadowy area here. And we'll come in with some brights. I don't think the shirt will ever hit pure white. And where the light is really pressing on the shirt in a way that makes me feel like it's important to show, I'll even add some of the blue pin striping as a detail. In the future, I hope to have the comments up and running, maybe on another device. I'm not sure how to do it. Anybody that has experience with this sort of thing that wants to share that with me, some of your own experience, I'd sure be obliged to listen to it. Still just scrubbing in color. Scrubbing in color. And there is a line on the shirt that's definitely catching stage light. There and there. All the way over to there and around here. A touch of it there. Yeah, that's really working for me. The brightest is going to be right there. So you should probably be seeing a bit of motion now in the shirt. If I squint my eyes a bit, I'm seeing progress as I squint my eyes and try to evaluate a nice crease of whiter color there. I'm just painting what I see. It's the old notion that painting an egg is one of the hardest exercises in art because you're forced to paint exactly what's in front of you without editorializing very much. It's an egg. This area in his middle catches a lot of light and has some dark shadows as well. The background music that I'm playing is surprisingly nice. I'll add some shadows to those little areas. Get rid of the undertones here. I come back in with quite a bit of darker paint in those sections and try to express those creases more efficiently. Actually quite dark right here. And while I do this, I'm trying not to create any hard lines because fabric and faces and shapes rarely have a lot of hard lines. So this is where the shirt comes down and meets right there. And we're going to come in with a little bit more bright white there and maybe here. Yeah. And the back side of this painting just exactly what I see and hoping that you see the same thing too. That's all I'm up to right now. More of this maple neck. I had planned to put Bob's hand right here, and I still may. We'll see as we go on. This is kind of a cool, very light orange that I'm popping in as the fingerboard color, and I need a very dark under it right here. Show that the neck is not quite that wide. Make sure this is nice and dark. And I'm going to put more black into that. I don't want to overwork the shirt too much. So I'm going to take a second here and clean my brush. I hope that I'm being viewed on both Facebook, Instagram, not Instagram. I'm not on Instagram yet, but I hope I'm being viewed on Facebook for sure. Bob's got some gray hair. We're going to pop in here in a little bit too. He's got a great head of hair for an old guy. Are any of Bob's friends watching right now? I don't have a way to look. I suspect a couple are, maybe on Facebook, elsewhere. This is one of the hardest lines. I spoke earlier about there not being hard lines very much. Now I'm just studying my drawing and studying the fabric, taking a look at what I've done, and I want to get more movement in this collar, and I'm going to do that way. Now, how does Bob's hair? It comes down here and tops off, covering just the top portion of his ear. Not unhappy at all right now with the colors in Bob's hair. We're going to add some fairly blue highlights. To sort of show where the stage light's hitting him. And then there's a bit of gray in the sideburn we've got to catch. Not too much. Got a little gray streak right there. And a sort of a natural wave that I've got to show here. And again, there's a pretty pronounced backlighting happen there. I'm going to pick up some of this orange that I found earlier, and I'm going to take the crown of the head and add some almost a reflected light on the back. All right, so far so good. We got some stuff going on here in the face we're going to address real fast. Still with the large brush. Still using the same brush that I started the painting with. And I'm going to darken that. I'll be back to that. We're not done with it. I'm going to take a little bit of that away. Find some more shadows. More shadows. Under the ear and across the cheek, he's got a shadow. And definitely under his ear, we need to get some darker darks. Still a skin tone, but a reflected kind of a dark spot under the chin. Stage lighting, again, is playing a huge role in the way the painting is going to shape up. And this crease in the nose, that's just about right. And his lip protrudes out a little bit into that space. We'll catch that with some more paint as we focus on the face. Under the eyebrows, kind of a furrowed brow look. And this is definitely, that's an area that I haven't really worked on at all yet. More of this shadow here, here. Got quite a bit of shadow right there coming off the eye. There's a dark spot here. Stage lighting, again, is playing a big part in the way this all looks. I would tell you that he's not as grumpy as he looks in this picture, but Bob really is kind of a grump. Just kidding, Bob. He's not a grumpy man at all. The line of his lip does not go down there. It indeed goes up. And that is indeed darker. And he has an eyebrow there. And little bit more darkness there. Let's work on that for a little bit. I'm going to take another very quick second to look at my feed and make sure that we're still live on the platforms. I don't want to talk myself to death if nobody can hear me. So in the future, in terms of content on my channel, you'll see painting demonstrations. You're going to see painting demonstrations. You'll see live recording. You'll see some live feeds from some of the different night spots here in town where friends of mine are playing or I'm playing. So it'll be quite a variety just in terms of the content. Yeah, that's good right there. I just found a color that really clearly shows this part of the face, and the earlobe is going to share some of that color as well. That's good. That looks nice. Pop a little bit of that color in there. Every time I find a color that I think works somewhere, I use it, and I fill in the blanks as I go. All right. Now, in every painting that I do, I reach a point where I think, oh my God, can I do this? Is this going to be the one that doesn't work? And I've painted some paintings that didn't work at all. And they're kind of embarrassing failures. Generally, if a painting doesn't work at all, it's because I started with a poor reference photo. And sometimes there's only one or two photos available and the person's already passed on and we can't take more pictures, or for one reason or another, the person that wants the painting just can't come up with any better photos. I personally love to take my own photos. I have not yet painted any serious portraits from a sitter, but that's something that in the future I would like to do, and I'll share that with you on this channel if I do. So that's that. I hope everybody's enjoying this. Again, I'm not trying to teach you how to paint. I'm not trying to sell myself as a great artist. I'm just a guy that enjoys artistic stuff and just wants to share it with you. All right, that's that. A little bit more highlights on the shirt since I just washed my brush off, and I can. So we're going to make this shirt move a little bit better. That's good so far there. But this comes here and continues to dip this way. And then we got an interesting jaunt right there in the shirt. Just adding a few details that I think will provide a bit more realism as we work our way down the subject. Got to cover up. Got too much of the underpainting showing up there. And that's going to take I'm going to work on the shadows on the shirt for a minute. You notice I keep coming back to places that I've already been. That's very purposeful in my process, because I'm finding colors and ideas as I move across the subject that I feel like will translate to other areas of the painting really nicely. This eye is pretty close to being finished. This eye, I've got to work on how that background is going to play into that. And I'm about ready to switch to a smaller brush for at least a little while. I think that would be a good thing to do at this point. Pardon me, I'm going to sneak away for 2 seconds to go look at my Facebook feed and see how I'm doing, because I'm an amateur and I don't really know how to do this. So I'll be right back. Give me a second. Well, we're an hour into this thing, and it appears that we still have a feed. However, I'm not seeing any comments. I got to make a note of that to myself, that comments aren't appearing yet. Wow, we're getting kind of close to, we're moving to a smaller brush. We're getting kind of close to arriving in a couple of places in the painting to something I'm going to call finished. This is not a finished portrait at this point, but there are spots that I feel pretty good about. Trim that microphone up a bit. I don't want to get bogged down in details on that mic, that's for darn sure, because that could spell trouble for me. I think I just about have to illustrate that there's a cord coming off the microphone. And it may even give me an interesting detail. Want to get the anatomy of the microphone. I want to get the anatomy of this microphone dialed in pretty close. It's an important detail, I think. So I need to figure out. I don't think I'm going to show his hand there. I don't have enough space to do it well. So simplify, when in doubt, simplify. So I'm going to trim this out and get that maple fingerboard sparkling. I'm not sure myself yet if I'll put any frets or strings on the fingerboard. Depends upon what level of realism I take this part of the painting to. It may be a distraction to add those things, because right now I think the shirt is pretty well illustrated. Got a couple more places to add some darks I'm going to do. We'll just pick up a little of this cadmium red here. And in this part of the face, he definitely has a feature. There we go. Now, get some more of these brights. I'm happy to report that I feel like I have a good likeness. That's my best news so far here, is that I do have a decent likeness. The way the light is playing here, it comes down his cheek and behind his eye, causing this to be a bit brighter, as well as this. And now that lip juts out a bit there. I'll blow that up and look at it in some detail in a moment. More layers. Definitely has a light catching here. And we still are not into our brightest of the brights, but we absolutely are finding some details. That's got the brow going the right way. There's not that much of a shadow here. We're going to scrub into what I had as a shadow. And what I need to express here is just the hint of his eye. There we go. That's Bob. Bob is peeking through here. Very good. That's Bob. Steal some of this light. Yes. Bob's coming to life now. Bob is a dog owner. He and his gal of many years are the type of folks that consider their dogs not just part of the family, but a really big part of the family. His ear does that, and it does that. We're not seeing a lot of it because his hair does come down. The brightest light in the picture is going to be on that lip. So we're going to take some of our yellow, ochre, and pure white. And let's try to make that happen. So yellow here is going to give us a really intense. I'm going to enlarge his face on my screen so I can really figure out where to apply these bright white yellow super saturated colors. Yeah, that was right. I got one right, one down. One down. There's some loose hair kind of drifting off this direction. Let that happen. Really happy with that line. This actually dips down a bit. Happy with that. So I'm beginning to see the light play really, for a better way to put it, really kiss Bob's face and make me believe that I'm seeing the guy right here in my studio, as though he were right here with me. And he's got a wonderful touch of light there. Very soft line under the chin. It has to be a very soft line. Now, that goes straight up and there. But we need to increase the shadow a bit. So I'm going to go back in with my darker flesh tone and create a bit more of a shadow under the nose and up to the nose. And now this detail is not right. And we're going to fix that. That's a much better color. Much better color. There we go. Now going back to the brights. We really have an opportunity here to just see the play of the stage lights on his face in a way that I think is pretty wonderful. Got to do a shadow there yet. Perhaps a little bit more. Too much. That's about right. That's about right. And then catch that. A lot of light there. More of a shadowy way. Pick that up. Under here. There we go. There we go. That's a bit too intense. We're going to calm that down a little bit. We're going to work out some of the details around the eye. Work some of these details out. So I'm starting to believe in the painting. In a way that's very necessary. If I want to finish the darn thing, I got to believe in it. And right now I do. This extends a bit farther down here. A bit more here. There's a dark shadow in this farthest eye socket that I have yet to figure out how to capture. This. I don't really. Well, that's much better. That's much better. This shadow extends here, across the nose, down farther, and certainly up. This line, this age line, there. I believe that does that. Little straighter here with some shadow behind the eye. Much darker here. Yeah, that's a bad color. It's my first whoops of the night. I need to get some of the detail in the ear. Still in no danger of overworking anything really. In terms of overworking a detail or trying to create too much realism, there certainly is no danger of that in this painting at this point. No danger of that. We can add some pretty intense highlight in the hair now. Pretty intense light being captured there. It's probably the brightest spot on the painting. We're going to let that happen. Something really intense is going on right there. And let's add some of that light to the shirt so we can explain why it is there. Certainly his neck is catching some of that. Pull some of that down. Ah, my son Travis is here. Hi, Travis. Travis just stepped in the studio. He is on perhaps a visit from Florida and maybe something more permanent. As a dad, I sure like to hope that might be more permanent. I'd love for him to stay here in the beautiful Cedar Falls, Iowa forever. I don't know if that's possible for him, but I'd like to believe it is. I gotta hope. He's got other family here as well, besides me. My sister and my niece are both very close to Travis, my son, and they've been hanging out with him a lot. Maybe helping to encourage him to stay in our neck of the woods, which would be so good for me. I'm selfishly hoping very much that he does stay. Have to do a little bit of work on this microphone. I can't quite leave it this neutral. So let's put a little bit of light on it right there and right there. So it looks like it's in the same room as he. Let the sun kiss that there a little bit. Stage lighting, not the sun, but same kind of effect. The cord, although just barely implied, is wrapping over there. The mic stand is going to pick up some light now and go over that. Again, without looking like I'm doing product placement, this is an SM58 microphone. The 57 is its cousin, used mostly, I think, to amplify instruments. 57s are used a lot on, in old school, they're used a lot on drums. They're also the principal microphone that you would see being placed next to a loud guitar amp to pump up the volume on a guitar amp. We'd place them right on the screen of the amp in the approximate area that we thought the cone would be, or the speaker would be behind it. Got to do something really kind of delicate here, and I'm struggling with this one because it's a very important feature, but I don't want to come in too dark. But Bob has that going on. And then I'm going to wash my brush out, which I don't do very often. But we're going to try to add a touch more realism by making that accurate. So let me get some light. Find some of that. Really starting to come together. I'm encouraged at this point. I'm encouraged. Now I need to add a little bit more light on his brow, which is quite furrowed. A touch more light here. That's all we're dealing with right now is shadows and lights. Not really even exploring shapes. Just looking where the light is striking Bob and trying to trying to show that. Got to get some gray hair happening on his sideburns. Can't leave him all looking young. Get this happening. He is an old man. So let's make him look like one real quick. Put a little age on him. I know there's a silver streak right there. Bit of silver in the back. And let's add a tiny bit of detail to the ear, but we definitely don't want to overdo this. That's it. I'm not going to do any more on that ear because I could overwork that pretty easily right now. That looks good to me. A little bit of light happening back here. Pretty much it. Here comes my son again. I just told everybody your life story, Travis.
Looks like your software is working good.
I think it is. I think it's going. Now I'm not getting any of the comments at all, which surprises me. I thought that we'd get any comments that came through.
I'll try to go on there and see if I can get a comment.
Thank you. Travis is going to look and see if we have any comments on Facebook or on
Well, I'm going to try to make a comment.
YouTube. He's going to try to make a comment. So I'm really happy with this likeness right now. And I think we've expressed the stage lighting kind of in a nice way. I promised I'd put some pinstriping where the light was really hitting that shirt, and I think it's time to do that. This is probably where I screw it up, but we'll try. Actually, the pinstriping is not in the light areas. Well, it is. We're just going to do enough of this to understand that the shirt is pinstriped and not just pure white. So not very much at all. So easy to get bogged down in details at this point. Kind of have to step away from it for a second and ask myself, is there an opportunity for just bright white? And I think there is. Right there. Right there. There. And there. Yep. That certainly worked. Got to be careful about that microphone. I don't want to overdo that microphone. That would be trouble indeed. Again. Now, I think if I darken the folks, I feel really, really good. I feel really good about where we are with the face. We're an hour and a half into the portrait. I think that the face is working really well for me. I like how I've left the bottom quadrant here a little loose and not gotten bogged down in any details. That's a plus. I'm going to add a touch of some super dark right there and there, and there. There. here. Well, all I'm going to do now is darken the guitar just a bit. I have punted on adding any detail to the fingerboard or to the guitar itself because I think that's going to be distracting. There's more detail, quite a bit more detail I could do in here on the microphone, but I think that anything else I do to the microphone itself is going to be a terrible distraction. I'm going to get a little bit of water on my palette because I may be putting it away in a minute. I want to make sure I have it fresh for the painting that I do tomorrow night for you. So once again, I'm Brian Sink. I'm an artist. I'm not specifically a painter or a musician. I'm a writer. I do artistic things and I try to live an artistic life. And my main goal tonight was to just share the process of doing the painting, to give you something to kill an hour and a half of your time, and maybe for you to get to know me a little bit so you can come back and follow my YouTube channel and subscribe, hit the like button, do whatever you can do to help me further this process. I've enjoyed my time with you very much tonight. I think it's time for me to sign this painting. I don't see anything at this point that I could do that wouldn't be overworking the piece, because I have accomplished my goal of creating a very good likeness of the subject. That's Bob. I know him well. He's my friend. Anybody that saw this picture would say, that's Bob. I kind of softened his little aging chin here, and I think he'll be happy about that. And I didn't make him look too awful grumpy. So I've won. I feel good about this. I'm getting ready to go push the finish button. But before I do, I need to get a tiny brush and do my least favorite thing that I do on any painting always, which is signing my painting. I'm not good at it. I screw it up sometimes. My signature is simply my last name in block letters, and my last name is Sink. And I'm super happy with this arm and just this whole look, where some of the sketch is even still peering through. It's that rustic in a way, I guess I'll say. So I'm going to sign it on the area that I think is the weakest part of the painting, which is the guitar handle here, or the guitar neck. And I'm just going to sign this S-I-N-K. And that, folks, that's a wrap. I will see you in a day or two. Welcome. Thank you for having joined me here tonight in Insomniac Studio. And maybe in the next day or two, we'll do some recording and have a little recording session here in the studio. Maybe we'll have some conversations with fellow artistic souls. The sky's the limit here. So please come back to my channel. And thank you for having been here tonight. I'm going to step out of frame and turn this off. I appreciate you.